every interaction with another human being was like, oh, when's the other shoe gonna drop? And when are they gonna show me the scary side? And I was unable to make genuine human connections for a very long time. I didn't really look anyone in the eye for like 18 years because I was just afraid. One guy, he was forced into retirement for screaming at one of my coworkers, and he would insult people. And from my perspective, it was kind of like I was just waiting for someone else to speak up or say something. And I think that comes from childhood wounding.
Hi, everyone. So today we are going to be talking with one of my clients, Trevor Co., about his journey with specifically healing his mother wound. And this is going to be very specific to that. Obviously, when someone works with me, there's a lot more that goes on. However, we're going to stick to this specifically for today, just so you guys can get a really clear understanding of what that process looks like specifically around the mother wound in men. So Trevor, thank you for being here and welcome.
Yeah, happy to be here. Hi, everybody.
Okay, so let's just start. If you can just introduce yourself, just tell us a little bit about you and then what drew you to work with me. Obviously, I know you're training to become a certified breath worker with me, but just from your own kind of like healing journey, what also drew you to dive into this work?
Yeah, so I'm 27 years old. I've had depression and anxiety almost the entire time, and I've been trying to figure that out and heal myself. And I tried a couple different modalities, kind of stumbled into breathwork, and that had a noticeable benefit. And then I'm like, I got to do more of this. I got to figure out how to do this. And then stumbled into your practice, the Metamorphosis Method, and it brought a language to the internal phenomena that I was already experiencing. Like there was stress from childhood, and it was like my body was trying to relay a message, and my body was trying to keep me safe. And it was confusing, and working with you sort of unlocked a new avenue in perspective and kind of shed light onto my situation and what was going on. I think that I've been ungrounded and stressed out the entire time. And working with you has really, it's shown how different my perspective can be. And I have like a new lease on life, and I'm excited to heal other people and continue working with you.
Amazing. Thank you. So let's kind of dive into more specifics around the mother wound, because obviously when you say you've been stressed or you've dealt with anxiety and depression, usually within my work, we always relate all of these deeper things back to your relationship with your mother, because, that's the first relationship that you ever had and will leave an imprint or a blueprint for how you look at all other relationships, but specifically your relationship with yourself. So let's first just talk about, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, what your relationship was like with your mother growing up, or just what your experience was of her in general. And then we'll kind of go into like how that translates to how it was showing up in your life as an adult.
Yeah. So I want to clarify all this by saying she did the best she could with what she had. And my perspective was immature in previous years. Like 10 years ago, I had no idea what was going on, and I was just a scared kid. But now doing breath work and Buddhism and other practices has given me a compassionate light to it. And I'm glad to be the person I am today. But she was very unpredictable. Her emotions were erratic and scary. And as a child, I adopted this view that every person was like this, and they were just kind of hiding it for the right time. So every interaction with another human being was like, oh, when's the other shoe going to drop? And when are they going to show me the scary side? And I was unable to make genuine human connections for a very long time. I didn't really look anyone in the eye for like 18 years because I was just afraid. And realizing and understanding that she was going through some things that I couldn't understand because that's her path to go through. And this is the adult stuff, but I've been able to connect with people in a deeper way and be vulnerable with people, including you and some of the other people that you work with. And it has really opened my eyes to, oh, that was an anomaly, that my foundational belief of what humans are and how they behave was based on an anomaly that really was outside of that person's control, because there was a lot of stuff going on. And now it seems like I'm stepping back into life, and it's welcoming and very nice to be here.
Yeah. And also, I just want to say, and I say this all the time, whenever we do this work, it's so important to be able to hold two perspectives at once. Like, we can know, like, okay, yeah, she was going through her own stuff and she tried her best. And it also affected me in this way, and I think that's really important to say, because I think a lot of people get really stuck on, oh, well, I don't want to be just blaming my mom for everything, or turning her into a horrible person, or villainizing her, or whatever. And that's really not what this is about. And obviously, that. It's really just about being able to take responsibility for your own experience so that you can change.
Right.
So I think that's important. And then also, let's kind of get into specifics in terms of, like, one of the things that I kind of want to go into is, when we first started together, you were working at a different job, which now you're not working there anymore, which is always a thing that shifts when people start working with me and they're at a job that kind of represents their family wounding. And either, like, the people at the job will change, or you'll just leave the job and do something different. So I think it'll be good to draw the parallel between what you were experiencing at that job and, how you felt growing up. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. It was, and again, with the most respectful I can be, it was a stressful work environment. I viewed management sort of like as the parental figures, not necessarily for me, but that was what I understood the situation to be. And people would have emotional outbursts, and management would just sort of downplay it and act like it wasn't happening, and sort of just try to, oh, you're fine, it's okay, they were having a bad day. But one guy, he was forced into retirement for screaming at one of my coworkers, and he would insult people. And from my perspective, it was kind of like I was just waiting for someone else to speak up or say something. And I think that comes from childhood wounding of, I'm not strong enough to deal with this, and I feel like some sort of hierarchical person should be doing this. And I kind of gave up my power in that situation, because I would watch him insult people and yell at people, and I wouldn't say anything. And I was just glad that I wasn't the target of the aggression. And in my house, I think I was just so glad to not be the target of aggression most days, that I would just, I'm not a part of this. I just want to be alone, and I want to play with my toys, and I don't want to get involved, because it's just so stressful. And the stress, it's not like a one-time event. It just drags along like this. Someone gets yelled at. Okay, now the energy of the house is different. The energy of the job is different, and people are moving around. They're quiet. No one's laughing anymore. No one's smiling. No one's, they're not happy to be there. And there's like a real felt sense of that. And it was fascinating to observe the childhood behaviors and mannerisms, and then apply them to my adult situation and surroundings. And I was doing breath work at that time, and only after doing breath work, and I was able to speak up for myself and say, like, this is not okay. And I actually contacted HR, and then a couple other people contacted HR, and then something happened. But for the most part, there was a good 2 years where I'm just going to sit here and do my job and keep my head down. And if someone loses their temper with me, that's my fault, and I'm to blame, and I should be doing a better job. And then I just sort of realized that no, this shouldn't be a toxic environment, and I should do something about this. And I think resolving and working with that childhood trauma, and even taking that act of doing that and speaking up, helped me resolve more trauma and made me more confident and realized I don't even want to be here. I'm here for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and also the other thing too is I think it affected your ability to connect with anybody there. Like it felt like you kind of wanted to withdraw, and you at first, from what I remember, just had a lot of fear about interacting with anybody because
Mhm.
you were like bracing for attack or bracing for them to go crazy on you. So it
Right.
made it really hard for you to even just talk to people.
Right. I was not familiar with the natural flow of human emotions and how to work with those as they present themselves. And I had this idea that I've since set down that someone who's 20 to 30 years older than me should be the leader. They should be the person to look to, that they are the one who sets the tone. And it was just a constant sort of like, oh, they're emotionally unstable, so this is how it's going to be. And there's nothing I can do about that because I'm the young person and I have to respect my elders. And when I sort of came to the conclusion that a lot of people have a lot of unresolved things from childhood, and those things can last for decades and decades if they choose not to do the work. And my agreeing to and doing the work, I outgrew that place so quickly that it was just like an old skin for a snake or something like that. Like I have to move
Mhm.
on. I have to grow up. I have to make better choices for my life in a way that feels genuine for me. And I did
Yeah.
feel like I was allowed to do that before I started doing this work.
Amazing. And then maybe we can talk too just a little bit about some of the other changes. Like, obviously, one of the big changes was you left your job. Because I remember a lot of what we talked about in the beginning was just you trying to like manage this job and how you felt there and what the people brought up for you. So obviously that's not a thing anymore. So let's talk a little bit also about some of the other changes that have happened as you, and I think it's important for people to understand too. It's yes, it's doing the breath work, but also what you're really doing during the breath work is processing the suppressed emotions from childhood that are making you feel like you didn't have a choice or making you feel like you had to just take the temperature of the emotions and just deal with it. And then once you process those emotions, it was like easy to just be like, oh, I don't want to be here. This place feels horrible. And then
Yeah.
you just left. But until you processed those emotions, and, with the breath work, but also with me telling you, like, this is what's happening. This is why you feel this way. This is, a parallel from growing up. And once you started to realize that you were recreating that and process the emotions, it's like the other stuff becomes easy, right? So, yeah, let's talk about some of the other changes that have occurred in your life, you
Yeah.
know, in the last couple of months.
Yeah. So I'm training to be a breathwork facilitator, and there was a sense of how am I going to make this work? It was kind of like, how is life going to bring this to me rather than how am I going to go get this from life? And I've been doing a lot of breath work this week. I met a very cool person who works with different venues and studios, and she wants to be an advocate for me. And all I had to do was go to the event and make the connection, and someone's willing to help me. And I want to show up for people. I want to be a healer. I want to be a lighthouse in a sense of, yeah, you can grow and you can change, and your life can be completely different from what it was even 6 months ago. And going out and talking to people, I was unable to do that for the past 2 or 3 years because I was so stressed out from work, trying to plan what's going to happen the next day. And I made a mistake and I got yelled at, and I can't make that mistake again. And now it's like, oh, I make a mistake. Okay, I'll correct it. And then I'll apologize if an apology is warranted. And then I'll make the adjustment and I move on. And it's sort of like a ship traveling through the sea, but there was a lot of weight being dragged behind the boat. And now that I'm just sort of cutting all of that loose, like, oh, if I make a mistake, that's close to fatal. It's catastrophic if I make one error. And now it's like, oh, no. I can apologize. I can have an emotional, a vulnerable conversation about what happened and how did they view it and what was my intention and where was I at and where were they at. And building those relationships and having those connections has been a joy that I don't really have a word for right now. It's been wonderful. And I was so afraid that if I make a mistake, then this person's going to abandon me. If I make a mistake, this person's going to abandon me, and then I'll just be alone. So what's the point in even trying? And now it's like I show up for this person, they show up for me. And it's sort of like a recursive, we're building a bridge over and over and over again. Are you okay? Am I okay? Can we make this better? Can we talk more? And it does make me sad, but a lot of that was self-imposed due to childhood wounding. I thought the world was one way, and it turns out that it's not. And I have the privilege to create a life from a good and great foundation of self-love, really. It felt like I was waiting for someone to save me. And after doing a lot of work, I realized that I'm the one that's going to show up for me every single day. And I have no reason not to do that. So I'll just continue to do that. Thank you. Thank you for all the help.
Well, yeah. And I just want to highlight a couple of things you said, because I think they're important. I think what you're describing around, the way you used to show up in relationships, just being afraid if you make one mistake, then the person's going to abandon you. That's really how you felt in childhood, where it's like, if you say the wrong thing or you do the wrong thing, you're going to get attacked or you're going to get blamed or you're going to get yelled at. And as a kid, that really does feel like a threat to your survival, because you need your parents to love you and connect with you and nurture you and support you, or else you really will not survive. So when those things are not addressed, we just continue to recreate them in our lives. So you were really in this like self-protection mode, where it felt like the safest thing to do was to just not connect with anybody.
Right.
But really that you felt isolated and alone, and you didn't feel happy. And now that you're able to connect with people, you realize like that's actually what you needed. But before, you just didn't have that ability because of the fact that you were just recreating these experiences over and over again. And that is exactly what we do until we become conscious of it. And then also the other thing too, around just putting yourself out there. I think when we have any sort of childhood wounding around how our parents saw us, or our parents not acknowledging us, or not feeling good enough, or feeling criticized or abandoned, that immediately comes up when it comes to putting ourselves out there. And I feel like for you, even in just a couple of months, you kind of went from, I really don't feel comfortable putting myself out there, to like the complete opposite almost. So maybe if you want to talk about that for a little bit too.
I realized for a long time, I felt like someone or something was out to get me. And that fear was based in a childhood perspective of monsters in the dark. And now that I'm an adult, and now that I've shown to myself, the inner child, again and again and again, that I'm going to show up if I make a mistake, if I want to do something, I'll go do it. And it feels like part of me is so grateful that I am showing up, because I was not showing up before. I am more able to go out and do things and have interactions and talk to people and make connections. And a lot of that reservation was just, if I don't do anything, I can't make any mistakes. But if I don't make any mistakes, I can't grow. And there is this hunger for growth. Like, I see the potential. This has been 6-7 months, and I was afraid to be on Ring cameras, like walking around, because of what would happen with AI and big tech, and they're taking all of my data. And now I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be a good presence in the world, and I'm going to help people. And if people are watching me do it, whatever. A few days ago, I was listening to like a really good song and I was kind of like dancing, and then people were watching me. And then a year ago, I would have stopped dancing and walked away, but I was like, who cares? I'm going to keep dancing. This is great. And I realized that that's what I want in other people. I want to be the person that people feel safe to be themselves around. And if I'm going to be that person, I have to feel safe being myself. And it feels like life is home in a unique way, where a year ago, 7 months ago, it felt like I didn't belong and I was just here to serve out a sentence or something. And now it's like I have the chance to create something, and I have the chance to connect with people who want to create things as well. And that bounty is far more valuable than any sort of isolation that would keep me safe. And I'm excited to live life, really. And I'm glad that I did it early. And I see people who, even today, 50, 60-year-olds who don't feel comfortable being themselves. And I know that there's work to be done, but I also know that they have to be in the right mindset to do that work themselves. I'm a lot more tolerant of other people and what they're going through.
Yeah, and that's huge, because I think when you hold the space for yourself to move through your own feelings, then you have a lot more space for other people when they have feelings, because you understand and it's not triggering your unconscious stuff. Because a lot of times the reason why we get triggered by other people is because whatever we're not dealing with, they're like mirroring that, and we don't want to look at it. So we get annoyed, or we get mad, or we don't like them, or whatever. But when you are dealing with your unconscious stuff, then, when people are acting whatever way, you have space for it. It might not be that you have to like deal with it if you don't want to, but it's not triggering you. It doesn't have the same charge to it. And I
Right.
think that's a really important result of this work that a lot of people don't talk about.
Mhm.
And I know also with not even just like work stuff, but also just like friendships, romantic partnerships, all that stuff has changed as
Mhm.
well, where you just feel more comfortable connecting with people. Like you said, you're not afraid to make a mistake. Is there anything else you wanted to add about those areas?
I still make mistakes, and I still make mistakes in relationships. And it's exciting to admit that I'm wrong and be held and heard by the person I've upset or annoyed. And that door of, oh, I can rebuild this bridge. There was a real sense of, oh, if I make a mistake, then it's unforgivable. And I wouldn't even ask that person to forgive me, and I just have to go away. And now it's like, oh, we're human beings and we're going to be alive for a long time. I'd like to make that connection, and I'd like to reconcile for what I've done. And that has enabled me to forgive other people in a huge way. I think when people sort of like crossed me or like lost their temper with me, it was like, oh, this person's a bad person now and they can't be trusted. And now it's like, oh, maybe they're tired. And they did sort of mention that they were in a bad mood and they made a mistake earlier and someone got annoyed with them. And I kind of see the play playing out, and they're a human being going through a human situation. And it just keeps coming back to that of life is difficult and it can be strenuous, and it's not as straightforward as I thought it was. And giving people the grace and honoring who they are and how they present themselves, it's like they're showing me a new face, which is really interesting. Like they want to be happy around me. And a lot of people that I talked to before this work and have talked to now, they're like, you're such a calming presence now. And it's just being around me is calming. And that, because I have my internal experience, but having other people say, like, thank you for saying everything that you said. I really enjoyed spending time with you. I had a breathwork call an hour ago and they were like, that was amazing. Thank you so much. That was so good. And then we got off the call, and then 10 minutes later, they texted me again, like, that was great. Thank you so much. And that feeling of like, oh, I can bring good into the world and people's lives. And I'm not planning and plotting and how am I going to do this and how can I do this and this and this. I'm really just showing up and being myself. And people are so glad for that. And I thought that I had to pretend to be somebody else for a really long time. Who do they want me to be in this moment? I'll just be me. And if they don't like me, they don't like me, but I like myself and I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be me. I'm glad to be doing all the work that I'm doing.
I wanted to just add this too, because it kind of relates to what you're talking about. One of the biggest things too that we've talked about and that has really shifted is just trusting your intuition and trusting yourself. And I think that was a huge shift that happened too.
Oh, yeah. It's almost like a new sort of intelligence. I'm not using my cognitive think brain. I'm in the moment, I'm feeling it out and I'm remaining in the moment as much as possible. And I'll have a connection. I'll look a person in the eye and like be there for them. And then they just share and they feel good about sharing. And previously I was afraid that, oh, they'll tell me some crazy thing and then I have to deal with it. And then something bad will happen. But people are showing up as human beings because I'm showing up as a human being. And I think there's some sort of connection with that, my intuition, their intuition. Okay, this is a safe container that we've created in this conversation, and they're allowed to be themselves, and I'm not going to judge them or criticize them. And I trust that they won't judge or criticize me.
Which is huge. And then I know we don't have too much time left, but I just wanted to ask you too, in terms of like men specifically, what would you say to any man who was wondering if they need to do work around their mother wound or aren't sure if their mother wound is affecting them, and they're trying to figure that out, if they should dive into something like this? What would you say specifically to men?
Just do it. Do the work. Invite femininity into your life and be vulnerable and experience emotions. And I mean, I see it on the internet. There's a male loneliness epidemic, and I was that for a long time, and I felt that and I feel that. And a lot of men don't feel comfortable talking about mental illness or their emotions, or they're not a real man. And I really disagree with that cultural sort of, this is what a man is and what a man should be. And our relationship with our mother is our relationship with femininity, in a sense, from a certain perspective, because it was a long time as children. This is how we view femininity, not necessarily women externally, but femininity internally, and how we process these emotions and how we sit with ourselves and how we care for ourselves. For any man, I would definitely recommend to do this work and see what it does. If you have an amazing mother, do the work, see what it does, see what it brings up. A lot of perspective can change and shift as we grow and mature, and there's a lot to be uncovered.
Yeah, and especially if there's anything, I always say, if there's anything that is like a recurring challenge or problem for you, that's the only sign you need, because there's something there,
Something to work on, yeah.
We'll share the stuff below, but if someone wants to try doing breath work with you, where can they find you or how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, just send me an email at trevko.carbon@gmail.com, trevko.carbon@gmail.com.
Amazing. I'm so excited for you. It's been like such a huge transformation in such a short amount of time. And I know it's just going to keep getting better. So thank you for sharing everything that you shared. I know it's going to be really helpful for people, and we'll link all your stuff below. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Alyse. Thank you for all your help. Thank you for helping me out with the work. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you.